Listen, there are Republicans who would like us to believe that these defendants are political prisoners, that they are living in inhumane conditions. How does that square with the reality of what you saw with your own eyes?
Listen, it's not reality. That's pretty much what we get from the MAGA Republicans, right? These alternative facts is what they typically lead with. And that was one of the reasons that myself and Robert Garcia wanted to go, because it's not like we're allowed to take in any cell phones with us or any devices that would have allowed us an opportunity to record exactly what we saw. And so the truth was only going to be whatever Marjorie and the other Republicans created that truth to be. And we wanted to make sure that people truly understood what was really going on, which honestly, it was mind blowing, the idea that they have access to so much technology that we don't have in the state of Texas, so many programs that they have. The list goes on and on and on.
But I think here's part of what I think you're driving at, Congressman, which is there is a conversation to have about criminal justice reform in this country. There is a conversation to have about conditions in these facilities. This is not the way to have it.
Absolutely. I mean, here's the deal. If Robert and myself were not there, I don't even think Marjorie Taylor Greene would have just kind of glossed over the conditions. You know, when she came out and did her initial press conference, she just talked about the fact that it wasn't an insurrection. She didn't even really want to talk about the conditions. And the only reason we were supposed to be there was to observe the conditions. Now, let's also be clear that we went around the entire jail. So we saw the portion that was built in the 70s, as well as the portion that was built in the 90s, where the January 6th defendants are being held together in single cells. For anyone who's ever had a loved one, you know that there's a difference when you've got your own cell versus actually being in general pop and being potentially in a pod. They are not in pods. They have their own singular cells. There is no one but January 6ers in their area. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that they would say that they want to have this conversation, but it was important for me to say that Democrats have been trying to have this conversation because it's a real conversation to have, because people have died in our jails. I've got clients that have passed away in our jails, so we can talk about it, but I'm just saying that this isn't the maltreatment. That you haven't seen maltreatment if you believe that this is what it looks like.
Congressman, you referenced something that Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene said once you were outside of the jail. I'm not going to play the sound for you. I'm sure you've heard it enough both at the time and since then. But as you said, she said of January 6th, which you, me, our viewers watched with our own eyes, it was not insurrection. She then provides no proof to back that because there is none, right? I just wonder what they are trying to achieve with the stunt in the first place, then with the comments afterwards, whitewashing one of the most heinous moments in our nation's history.
No, I mean, it tells you the point of the visit, right? The point of the visit was to go in and get some more of their defenses and really try to make it seem like they were the real victims. They were not the victims. My colleagues that can still recount how they felt as they were on the House floor, they were the victims. Those officers, some of which still serve us today, they were the victims. The victims were not the people that decided to go after our democracy at the behest of a twice impeached, disgraced president.